You're watching Gossip Canon, where we break down the biggest stories in entertainment. Subscribe and hit the bell so you're always up to date. What if Prince knew exactly who was behind Michael Jackson's death? Not just a wild guess, but names, motives, and a warning that Michael may have whispered before it was too late. Because despite what the media wanted us to believe, that Prince and MJ were bitter enemies, the truth is way more complicated and way more chilling. In the weeks before Michael died, he wrote down everything, his fears, his plans, and the names of people he believed were out to destroy him. That secret diary, it vanished without a trace the moment he passed. And if that sounds suspicious, it should. Especially when you realize Prince may have known exactly what was coming. Because behind the lights, the fame, and the rivalry, these two icons were fighting the same dark battle, and one of them might have known how it was going to end. But what really happened between them, and who was powerful enough to silence the most famous voices on the planet? Let's unravel the truth. Just weeks before his death, Michael Jackson began writing in a private journal. It wasn't a casual diary, it was personal, specific, and, most importantly, terrified. He wrote about dreams bigger than ever before, becoming a billion-dollar global icon, launching a line of soda and cookies, producing a Broadway play about his life, and even working with brands like Nike. His plan? Make $20 million a week. He wanted immortality, not just as a pop star, but as a legend on every stage. But that wasn't the part that scared people. Buried in those pages were disturbing entries. Michael believed someone was watching him, hunting him. He wrote that he was being stalked by people who wanted to unalive him. In his own words, evil people everywhere. They want to destroy me and take over my publishing company. The system wants to destroy me for my catalogue. I'm not selling it. Think about that. Michael wasn't just afraid. He knew he was a target, and he believed it had everything to do with what he owned. That diary, those words, were never supposed to disappear. But the moment Michael died, so did the diary. Gone. Vanished. No official trace. Just scattered claims that it ever existed, and a list of unanswered questions. Coincidence? Or was someone making sure his truth never came out? Michael Jackson wasn't paranoid without reason. The deeper you look, the more obvious it becomes. He wasn't just afraid for his life. He was in a full-blown battle against the industry. At the center of it all, his music catalogue. Michael didn't just make hits, he owned the rights to them, and not just his own. He famously acquired the Beatles catalogue and built one of the most valuable music publishing empires in the world. That made him powerful and dangerous. He said it openly. The record companies really do conspire against the artists. They steal, they cheat, they do whatever they can, especially the black artists. He didn't hold back. He called out Sony by name. He called out Tommy Mottola, then president of Sony Music, describing him as, quote, devilish. Not just corrupt, devilish. And Michael's family? They backed him up. His sister LaToya publicly claimed that his death was no accident. She believed it was premeditated, that someone wanted Michael gone, and that Dr. Conrad Murray, the man blamed for the fatal overdose, was just the fall guy. LaToya said Michael warned her, repeatedly, that something was coming, that people were after his catalogue, that they'd do anything to take it, and according to her, he didn't just say it once. He said it over and over like he knew the clock was ticking. So the question is, who benefits when an artist like Michael is gone? And if this was all about money and control, was he the only one being targeted? If Michael Jackson was being targeted for his catalogue, then Prince was next in line. Just like MJ, Prince didn't want to be owned, not by labels, not by contracts, and definitely not by the system. And he didn't just complain about it, he made it unmistakably clear. In 1993, Prince stepped on stage with the word slave written across his face. That wasn't just for shock value, it was a message to the entire industry. Warner Brothers, the label that launched his career, also owned his name and his master recordings. He wanted control. They said no. So what did Prince do? He changed his name to a symbol, literally. For years, the world referred to him as the artist formerly known as Prince. In interviews, he spoke out just as fearlessly as MJ. He said, "I wanted to buy my masters back. They said, no way, so I'm going to re-record them, every single one." He told fans, "You'll have two catalogues, one owned by them, one owned by me. You choose who to support." Prince understood the game. He said it himself. "If you're signed, you only get a sliver of the winnings. The house always wins, unless you walk away." And like Michael, Prince didn't just talk about business. He talked about something bigger, how the system treated black artists, how it used them and tossed them when they became too powerful. Sound familiar? So now think about this. Two of the most iconic, talented and influential black musicians in history, both screaming the same warnings, both fighting to own their art, both calling out the machine. Was that a coincidence? Or were they two men standing on the same battlefield, surrounded by the same enemies? For decades, the world believed Michael Jackson and Prince were bitter enemies. And on the surface, that's exactly how it looked. Prince refused to collaborate on We Are the World. He turned down MJ's invite to duet on Bad, a role that eventually went to Wesley Snipes. And when Prince was asked why he declined, he said, "The first line of that song is, 'Your butt is mine.' Who's singing that to who? Because it's sure not going to be me." The rivalry wasn't just creative, it got personal. Michael once called Prince mean, nasty, and even said, "He's the type that might unalive himself or something." That's how tense it was. There were stories of them trash-talking, humiliating each other in games of ping-pong, and even Prince walking up to MJ during a Vegas show and slapping bass in his face just to provoke him. But here's the twist. Behind all that drama, they may have actually been friends. According to Prince's former bodyguards and close insiders, the rivalry was mostly public smoke. Privately, they visited each other's homes, attended each other's concerts, and played games together at Paisley Park. MJ even played Prince the final version of his Dangerous album before it was released. Just the two of them in Prince's studio. And Prince, he said he loved it. That's not something enemies do. So why did the media push the feud so hard? Maybe because it was easier to control two legends if they never stood side by side. Maybe because two unified voices would have been impossible to silence. But in the quiet moments, away from the cameras, they weren't just rivals. They were allies in the same war. When news broke that Michael Jackson had died, the world froze. But Prince disappeared. He was in rehearsal at Paisley Park when the news came in. According to close friend Tavis Smiley, Prince immediately sent everyone home, cancelled the session, and then locked himself away for days. No interviews, no statements, no public tribute, just silence. Behind that silence, something was breaking. Over the following months, Prince quietly began to include "Don't Stop Till You Get Enough" in his live performances. A subtle tribute, but a deeply personal one, because despite what people thought, Michael's death shook him. And maybe it wasn't just grief. What if it was fear? Think about it. Prince had spent years fighting the exact same battles, over control, over ownership, over freedom. He knew the stakes. He saw what happened to Michael, and maybe he realized what could happen to him too, especially if Michael had shared something with him before he died. There are whispers that Michael opened up to Prince in those last months, that he called him, that he warned him, that he told him who was behind it all. And if that's true, then Prince knew not just what happened to Michael, but what might be coming next. Both Michael Jackson and Prince died under hauntingly similar circumstances. Michael was preparing for the biggest comeback tour of his life. This Is It. He was rehearsing, focused, and, according to those around him, determined to take back his place at the top. Then suddenly he was gone. The official cause? A lethal mix of prescription sedatives, given by a doctor who would later be labelled the scapegoat. But Michael had warned people over and over that someone was trying to silence him. And just years later, Prince, who was reportedly in the best shape of his life, died from an overdose too. No history of hard drug use, no medical condition that explained it. Just a sudden, shocking collapse. Same pattern, same silence, same gain for the people they were both fighting. In their final days, people close to both stars said they seemed uneasy, paranoid, like they knew something was coming, and maybe they did. They were two of the most powerful artists in history, each sitting on catalogues worth hundreds of millions, each refusing to sell, each challenging the very system that helped create them. And maybe each marked as a threat because of it, because when artists stop playing the game, the industry starts protecting the scoreboard. So ask yourself, was this really coincidence? Or was it a cleanup? Maybe it wasn't just music. Maybe Michael Jackson and Prince were trying to leave behind something bigger. A warning, a truth, a final message written between the lines of their lyrics. And in the silence after they were gone. Michael had a diary full of names, fears, and plans. That diary vanished. Prince fought to own his work, re-recorded everything, and spoke openly about the system. Then he too disappeared, just as suddenly, just as mysteriously. These weren't just performers, they were voices for something bigger. And maybe that's what made them so dangerous. They saw the machine from the inside. They knew who pulled the strings. And they wanted out. What they feared might have finally caught up with them. And if Prince really knew what happened to Michael, if they truly had that final conversation, then maybe he left behind a message too. Something we haven't found yet, something hidden, waiting. Because the story of two global icons doesn't end with silence. It ends with us asking the question they weren't allowed to answer out loud. Who really had the most to gain by keeping them quiet? And more importantly, what were they trying to tell us before the lights went out? And that's today's blast from the cannon. What do you think about all the drama? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We read everything. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you're first in line for the next celebrity explosion. This is Gossip Cannon signing off, where the truth isn't just spilled, it's detonated.